In this video, we'll see how to reshape some sample transactional data. In this dataset, we have customers who have shopped at one of two types of stores, a home store or an away store. Home store is indicated as 98 in this data table. Away stores are 3, 2, and 1. We have, for each interaction, the transaction amount, time, and date. To start, we want to split these transaction amounts into different columns based on which store they were in, 98, 1, 2, or 3. To do this, we'll use tables, split. Split allows us to break apart or unstack multiple rows for a split column. Here, split by is asking for a variable that will define the different columns we want to use. In this case, we want to split by store. Next, we have to indicate which columns we would like to split. In this case, it's asking for which column has values we want to occupy the new columns for each level of store. In this case, that's transaction amount. Group is asking for a variable that identifies groups in our dataset. In this case, it's customer ID. If we would only like these columns in a new data table, we can simply click OK. Here, I'm going to select Keep All for remaining columns. This means that our new data table will retain the other columns not used in the split by, split columns, or group section. When I click OK, Jump will produce this new data table showing for us, for each of the stores, 1, 2, 3, and 98, the spending for each of our customers, 1 through 31. You'll notice that some customers have blanks. This means that this customer, customer 1, didn't actually shop at store 1 during the time period. Because we want this non-existent data to actually count as 0, we'll actually change these values to all be 0. Now we can do this manually, or simply take a 0. I'm going to copy it to my clipboard. I'm going to right-click on one of these blanks and click Select Matching. Now I can do Edit Paste to paste that 0 into all of those sections. I can do the same thing in each of these different columns. So right-clicking, select matching cells, right-clicking, and pasting. Now, with complete data, we can see the average spending or total spending for both home and away stores. 98 is our home store, so there's no modification we need for that. For 1, 2, and 3, which count as away stores, I'll double-click to make a new column and call this away. To get a formula to actually take the sum of these columns, I'll right-click and select Formula. Here, I can scroll down, find 1, click the plus sign, find 2, click the plus sign, and find 3. And with this formula, Jump will actually find the sum of these spendings. To get an average spending for average transaction amount, we can scroll over, double-click, I'll call this average transaction. Let me right-click there, select Formula. We can define the formula ourselves, or under Statistical, we can select Mean. And now with this selected, I'll click on the 1 in the list, hold down Shift, and select 98. And notice what Jump will do is populate this with the mean of these columns, 1, 2, 3, and 98. When I click OK, we now have the average transaction amount for these customers across time. Now, we may also want to know the total spending of each of these customers so that we may group them into different categories. I'll make a final column by double-clicking. I'll name this one Total. And just like we did for average, we're going to use all the columns and take a sum. So I'm going to right-click, select Formula, under Statistical, and select Sum. Sum, just like I did for Mean, simply has to be selected in the center, and then I'll click the 1, hold down Shift, and click to 98. This gives us the sum of those columns. When I click OK, we now have total spending. To get a rank for each customer on total spending, we can use Analyze, Distribution. I'll give it the total column as my Y. When I click OK, I get the distribution output. To save the ranks, I'll click on the red triangle next to Total, select Save, and select Ranks. Now we have a ranked column for these individuals. If we would like these in groups, we can right-click in the columns list and select Make Bidding Formula. Since we have 31 categories, we'll want the width to be some multiple that gives us the number of bins we want. In this case, 31 over 4 bins would give us a width of 7.75. I'll put 7.75 as my width, and with the offset set to 0.5, you can see we capture these individuals in 4 bins. I'll click Make Formula column, and now we have a binned column, and if I look at the distribution of this binned column, we can see for all but one category, we have 8 individuals in each. Now, if we would like a bubble plot showing us, based on the spending categories, really how much individuals spend on total, the relationship between home and away spending, we can use graph, bubble plot. I'll use the away store as my X and the home store 98 as my Y. ID here is what identifies our groups. I'll use the rank total binned. And if we would like to size or color these observations, here I'm going to size by average transaction amount. When I click OK, JUMP will produce this bubble plot. To look at these data another way using bubble plot, I'll go to Graph, select Bubble Plot, put 98 as again my Y, Away as my X. For ID, I'm going to use both of these columns. First, using rank total binned, and then putting ranked total. This will allow us to look at each of these different groups and break them apart simply on the basis of their rank. For sizes and coloring, I'll also use rank total bin. This will allow me to visualize the spending category of these individuals. When I click OK, JUMP will show us the same output as before, showing for the different groups. I can select a group though, and click Split. This will show me the observations from which these individuals came. Notice when I click Combine, we can see where they landed. The benefit of looking here is that we can see there's tremendous variability within that spending category, within where they spend on home and away.